When we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying America. Buy American products.
You just heard President Biden's solution last night to the country's continued economic woes: buy American. But last night he also sounded like he was taking a bow when he talked about job growth and our economy.
We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America.
6.5 million, sure, may sound like a large number, but let's do the math. It's not when, of course, you compare it to the more than 22 million jobs that were lost in the year 2020, John.
That's right, Bianca. It's not where you start, it's where you wind up. Let's welcome in our panel to talk more about this, former Nevada State GOP chairwoman and Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian. Also with us, Dan O'Donnell from News Talk 1130 in Milwaukee. Amy, Dan, great to have you both with us.
Great to be
Nice
here.
to be here.
All right, so I know we all did it. We did the thing. We watched the State of the Union last night. But the only people that are happy with the outcome seems to be establishment Democrats in Washington, D.C., and a lot of the media. We had the squad and the Congressional Black Caucus giving their own responses in addition to Republicans. And then there was New York Times columnist Charles Blow, who said this.
We go from using Floyd's daughter to champion something that will protect black people, to using the family of the two officers who were killed in New York to talk about funding police and using COVID money, by the way. And he keeps saying that they voted for money to fund the police. That is not what actually happened with that. They voted for COVID funds. There were $350,000 that the states could use at their discretion. The administration went back later and said, this is our advice, is that you can use this money. Our guidance is that you can use this money to hire police. That's how that happened, right? It wasn't that everybody in that chamber voted and said we want all this money to go for policing.
So they were really fired up about the policing aspect, and Joe Biden said he wanted to fund the police. But Charles Blow is absolutely right, Amy, there for calling out Biden, who tried to tell us last night that the COVID relief money was used to fight this surge of violent crime. But I think this also shows us how far President Biden is from the energy of his party and the people who helped get him in office. He's now abandoning them for political expediency.
I actually don't think many people, if not most people, were happy with the State of the Union speech last night. Maybe some of the Democrat establishment, but I've got to tell you, those that I'm friends with, they've been pretty quiet today. I have not seen very many posts filled with praise on any social media platform, nor have I received any text messages from those saying, hey, aren't you glad we now have President Biden instead of President Trump? I'm not hearing any of that. And I think a lot of what he actually said last night was filled with, as he would say, malarkey and bullet points with very little substance.
Yeah, well, the job creation, chest pounding was a bit of a stretch as well. And I don't know, maybe you know more establishment Democrats than I do, Amy. But I saw the moment where Amy Klobuchar was all excited about the unity aspect of that. But I also wanted to focus on something that AOC had to say. Dan, take a listen.
So I think there are some themes that left a little bit to be desired for key constituencies in the Democratic base, but the president's goal was very clear. He was laser focused on really projecting a theme of unity, and I think he stuck to that.
Now, sometimes, Dan, if you listen really hard and squint your ears, I guess if you can do that, you can hear what AOC is really trying to say. And I was focused on the fact that she said projecting a theme. So at least there's that. I mean, that's really what this administration has come down to, just projecting themes, not actually doing anything sufficient or significant, just projecting a theme. And he did that.
And I can actually tell you what AOC was opposed to. The two things that got the biggest applause in Biden's entire speech were things that he's essentially done a 180 on. The end of COVID-19 and funding the police. When Biden hammered home that nobody's saying defund the police, when in actuality AOC and pretty much half of the Democrat Party has been saying defund the police for 2 years. She's not happy about the fact that Biden, out of necessity, because he, just like we have, has seen the poll numbers, and they're devastating on the draconian COVID policy of the last 2 years and on the out-of-control crime rates. Those, along with inflation, which Biden also talked about, are the big things that people are going to vote on. Democrats are on the wrong side of all three of those issues. Biden's policies caused inflation. Democrat policies caused the higher crime rate. And of course, they were the ones locking us down for 2 years.
Dan, President Biden told us last night that it was these corporate, the corporate greed that caused inflation, not the trillions of dollars that they're printing at the Treasury Department and throwing in the economy. That's not causing inflation. Dan, it's the greed in corporate America.
Right. It always comes down to that. And I loved how the cameras immediately jumped to Elizabeth Warren, who was standing and applauding at the idea of
course she was.
greed.
All right, hold on, Amy, 1 second, because I want to get to something else. We only got a couple minutes left here. We also had this instance last night of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. There was an attempt to get the Build the Wall chant going. That didn't work out, but there was also this.
A cancer that would put them in a flag draped coffin. I know.
All right, so how do we feel about the heckling? I got about 30 seconds for each of you. Even if you agree with what was said or the spirit of what was said there, Amy, is this the right venue for it?
Well, let me just tell you, when we had President Trump, we had members on the opposing side that boycotted, and they also made it quite clear that they were not in favor of what was coming out of the president's speech. So, should we be behaving or misbehaving like the left? Probably not. But you know what? I think what Congresswoman Boebert said was what the majority of the nation is feeling. And I'm actually glad that she did it.
I think a lot of people might feel like you do. And Dan, just want to get your thoughts on this. You might agree with what she had to say, but is this the right way to do it? Is this the right forum?
No, this isn't British Parliament where you can just kind of yell stuff. Just as I thought that Nancy Pelosi tearing up Donald Trump's State of the Union address in 2020 was the height of boorish behavior, this was inappropriate as well. But it's funny that Democrats want the return to civility that they themselves never showed to Trump for 4 straight years.
I personally would welcome question time in our country here. I like to tune in on C-SPAN sometimes just to watch the British Prime Minister get a good ribbing from his constituents in the Parliament. But, you can only hope for so much, guys. Amy, Dan, great to see you both. We'll see you again in the next hour.